Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kirbside podcast. I'm your host, Jay Kirby, joined here as always by my lovely co-host, Britt. Today, we're joined by the writer, director, and sometimes star of the Off the Beaten Path musical and many more, the great Mr. Tory Doctor. Thank you for joining us today.
The pleasure is all yours. I'm so delighted. I'm so delighted that I'm here.
Well, we're always happy to have you.
Absolutely.
Jay's told me quite a bit about you. And that's all I'm going to leave it with.
Oh dear. I'm excited to learn.
But as always, for the fans, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, tap that little bell on your YouTube app so you never miss an upload. And I always have to say, buy the shirts at prowrestlingtees.com/LostBoyKirby. So, Mr. Tory, once again, thank you for coming on. We greatly appreciate you getting back to us quite rapidly. Like sometimes we don't always hear back immediately from some guests, but you guys
or at all
very punctual, and it almost caught me off guard, to be honest with you. So we greatly appreciate you coming on. So why don't we start off by just telling the listeners who you are, where you got, your start clearly in theater, and we'll go from there. Floor's yours.
Yeah. So thank you. I'm delighted to be here. I am only punctual because of my assistant, Melody McClellan. She's the mastermind behind pointing me in the right direction. So kudos to Melody. So yeah, for the past 30 years now, I've been a musical theater actor working professionally all around the world, working for Cameron McIntosh, who produced Les Mis, Phantom Cats, Miss Saigon, all those big giant shows, and worked for Disney, who produced everything in your home library and on Disney Plus, right? So, and in doing working with Disney and Cameron McIntosh and regional theater and mega musicals and I got to go to 40 different countries, and I got to meet Alan Menken, the composer of Little Mermaid, Little Shop of Horrors, and Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, all those big giant shows. And so this was my career for a really long time. And then a number of years ago, I was so excited about the Lord of the Rings musical because I'm a huge fantasy fan. I grew up reading The Hobbit. I grew up reading Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms and Game of Thrones. And well before Game of Thrones was even on
Popular.
HBO's radar, right? I was reading and going, everyone, I got something for you. If you want to read the book that you're going to love. And everyone got annoyed with me. And then they started reading and they were like, oh, gee, Tory, you're really smart. And I was like, yeah, I know, these are great stories. And then some years ago when I went to Lord of the Rings, the musical, I had friends in it. It was going to be 4 hours of epic fantasy, and I was ready for it because I'm a musical theater guy.
Mm-hmm.
My friends are in the show. I'm a fantasy guy, and I was ready to be blown away. And the show didn't scratch the itch that it should have. In any one of those categories, with my friends being in the show, with it being Lord of the Rings, and with it being a musical, none of it really got to that point where I was fulfilled. And so I thought to myself, well, if it's not out there, then someone needs to write it. And I was looking around at other people going, you need to write this. And then finally I looked in the mirror and I went, well, nobody's going to write it, so I better write it myself. And so I started writing Off the Beaten Path probably, I guess, about 4 years ago now. And I had another composer originally on board, and it was just going to be a straight through fantasy adventure. But I thought, this isn't, I want the audience to experience a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. A D&D campaign where they feel invested in these characters. And so I was like, well, I guess maybe we'll give them a couple of choices, like a choose your own adventure, right? Because I wanted to pay homage not just to D&D, but to Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, The Witcher, Skyrim, Baldur's Gate, all these video games, all these franchises.
Absolutely.
And choose your own adventure was a big one that I loved as a kid.
Of course.
And so I thought, well, why not do a musical that has, elements where you can choose, and then, and there was only going to be a couple of choices. And then I was like, well, that doesn't quite scratch the itch of making like a D&D campaign choice, right? I want the audience to have consequences to their choices. And so as a result, now we have 7 choices in the show. We have a new composer who came on board, who is a sci-fi fantasy fan, who played The Witcher, who played Baldur's Gate, who played all of these games, and is a musical director, and is a composer, and is a fantasy fan, and is a sci-fi fan. So ultimately, everything came together. Actually, right at the time when the pandemic started, we started to get interest from theater companies all around the world. And then all of a sudden the pandemic happened and everything just shut down, and there was no interest out there for new theater because nobody knows when theater's coming back or when it's going to be sustainable. So I thought, well, why don't we just bring the show online? We'll do a Zoom reading of the show, just like a table read around, and see if people like it. We did that. And we invited like 10 people, and they were like, oh, I need more. I want to know the rest. So were you doing this next week? I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it next week. And then I did another reading, and then they invited more people. And then the show started to grow. And from there, because we literally had a captive audience, because of the pandemic, our world started to grow. The story started to grow. The amount of choices started to grow, and from there that grew into a commissions business, and that from there that grew into spin-offs of the musical. And yeah, it's crazy now, and I love it. I absolutely love it. But yeah, this is me in nutshells. Here I am. Yes.
So you definitely captivated an audience.
Yes, well, that's good.
You definitely captivated the audience. I got to watch a reading of Off the Beaten Path most recently. It definitely felt like a D&D musical, especially coming from us good folks at our spin-off show Dice Hard with a Vengeance. Which I'm actually
what a great name.
Right?
That's a great name.
Thank you. So
my geek is like emotionally aroused.
Okay,
that's really good.
I've never gotten to tell this story in an interview. We started the Kirbside podcast literally right about the time of the pandemic. I think our first episode was late January.
Yeah, that was our very first, because it was the Royal Rumble.
Yes, it was. Yes. Late January, we had 2 or 3 episodes, and then I actually had knee surgery in that February. So I was sitting at home doing a whole lot of nothing. So we would do a couple interviews here and there just to quell my stir crazy, so that I wasn't losing my mind being stuck at home. Little did I know that the whole world was about to be stuck at home. So then, just as content filler, because I wasn't getting enough interviews out to get people watching the show. One of the members of our group, his name's Tim, or everyone knows him as Taruk on the show. He reached out to me and he goes, "Hey, I want to play D&D. We're trying to get a group together." And I said, "Of course, I would love to play D&D." And then the idea clicked in my head. Why don't we record it and we'll just post it on the YouTube channel for content? So then this tiny little group of 4 or 5 has grown into a group of 9. But as we're sitting here going, we can't just call it Kirbside D&D. I need a name for it. And I listen and watch a lot of What Culture videos, and Jules Gill. Oh, love What Culture. One day I'll get to interview one of them on here and tell them that we love them. But Jules does Live and Let Dice. And I was like, that's such a creative name. I need something like that. And I threw name upon name upon name at the board, and nothing stuck. And then I remembered one of my favorite movies, and she hates when I bring it up, also one of my favorite Christmas movies, Die Hard. So I thought Dice Hard would be a hilarious name. Then I found that it was actually another YouTube channel's name. And I was like, okay. And I reached out to them. I was like, oh, I would like to call my show Dice Hard, but clearly that's yours. Would you have any issue with me calling it Dice Hard with a Vengeance? Arguably the second best Die Hard movie. And they say, go for it. We love it. And here we are a little over 2 years later.
Great name. I am very proud.
Well, I take that as a very mighty compliment.
And so you should. I'm a writer. It's what I do. I see a dog. Hello, dog.
Yes, this is my sometimes extra co-host, Piper. Piper, look.
Hi,
look, you're on screen.
Piper. We have a character in our Lyris. Our Lyris is the world that Off the Beaten Path takes place in. There's a character named Piper in the world. Well, you've not seen Off the Beaten Path, Britt, but when you do, I hope you do, we have a Herald the Herald, we have Stuart the Steward, and then we go into, and then there's a character named Piper, whose name is actually it's Harold. But so we set it up. But Piper's name is Harold, actually. So there's one of the spin-offs of Off the Beaten Path called Annex and the Piper. And so we allude to the Piper, depending on which version of OBP you see. So Off the Beaten Path has about 135 different versions of the show. 135 iterations. Yeah. So there are some of the choices you make are really small, and they are just flavor content that give you more or less information, depending on how you choose. Some of the choices are really big and have drastic consequences. There's also a secret ending to the show that the audience can unlock.
Oh, really?
That even the vast majority of the cast members don't even know.
Oh,
right. Ooh. And so then they get that script when it's unlocked. Then they find out at the same time as the audience.
That's amazing.
I love that. I love that idea. That is wild.
We really think that this is the future of theater, to be honest with you. Imagine going to an event, going to the theater, and when you leave the theater, you're not done. That's just the beginning. And coming back several times and seeing a different show, new songs, different storylines, and new information that gets you closer to that secret ending. There's hints throughout, right? And then in our spin-offs, there's also hints throughout the spin-offs as to what the secret ending is. Now, and Off the Beaten Path is actually the first in a trilogy of musicals. So it's Off the Beaten Path, The Path Less Traveled, and Path's End. And there's a big, giant story arc through all three of these musicals and the spin-offs. And so we know what's eventually going to happen in all three musicals. But we have 13, 14 hours of original content that you as a viewer can sink your teeth into, and you can either go, that was a fun show, I enjoyed it, or you can actually try and figure out what's happening, who's related to who, and the Game of Thrones question, right?
Oof.
Right. So it's a giant world, and it's growing by the day, and we're going as deep as having it in our Lyris calendar, having the our Lyris horoscopes, and all of that again talks about, well, it all plays into the overall storyline of the world, which we believe is of the the nexus of all of the fantasy franchises, because we reference them, right? So, and one of the other things that we do, so there's Off the Beaten Path musical and shows. Then there's the Off the Beaten Path commissions. And we have our commission team write music for fantasy fans. And it can be anywhere between 1 instrument and 1 minute to 250 piece fully orchestrated musical pieces with singers from Les Mis and Come From Away and with Broadway credits, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah, so if your bard writes lyrics to a campaign, we can take those lyrics and we can fully orchestrate them into a tavern piece. We can do it into, a 250 piece giant orchestra, or just down to 1 lute. We can write that melody for you, and we can have a professional singer come in and do that for you. And when you do that, that ties you into our world, right? And so we'll have Britt the Bard, right?
Okay.
And Britt the Bard wrote these great lyrics, and then we write the music to it, and we get somebody to sing it, and you have that in your repertoire. You can play it during here's my song, and then we play it, or you play it. But what that does is we will reference Britt the Bard in our shows.
Oh, I love that.
Right? We'll be, oh my god, is that Britt the Bard's song? Oh, the one about the yeah, oh yeah, that's totally her. Did you know that and just a little factoid about Britt the Bard, right? So it ties you into our world. So anytime you commission from us, our worlds are tied together, right?
Wow.
So, and you can hop from world to world. You get to go from your table and be referenced at somebody else's table on the other side of the planet. And, have Britt the Bard be an NPC in another campaign somewhere, right? That's the whole idea, is that we're bringing all of the fantasy worlds together, whether it be the giant franchises or whether it be Britt the Bard, right? And we reference Britt the Bard, and we don't outright say this is from Game of Thrones. We do something like, does that guy have a golden hand? No, don't talk about it. It's really he's really upset about it, right?
We don't talk about the golden hand.
So there's just references throughout Off the Beaten Path. Kydius says, I killed a dragon outside of Whiterun for the Skyrim fans, right?
I remember I think Annex, there's a part where he's taking requests and someone goes, toss a coin.
Yeah, play toss a coin to your witcher.
I'm not playing that song.
Yeah. And there's references to all of the franchises, and there's lots of musical theater references too. So if you're a musical theater fan, you get the musical theater references. If you're a fantasy fan, there are
fantasy references.
There are over 100 Easter eggs in this show specifically for you, the fantasy fan, right? And sometimes you don't get them the first time around. You may not get them the 9th time around, but they are there. And like there's one where the Herald says PHB 3.75 states, right? That's Player's Handbook. 3.75 is where Pathfinder deviated from D&D, right? So it's like really deep into the lore and the franchise. So yeah, there you go.
So my question is, because there are so many versions of the show and there's so many endings, outside of the decisions that the fans can make during the show, how do you determine which show the audience is getting this week?
Yeah, so we have no idea. We literally have no idea. When we go into each OBP, there is a 200-page script with hyperlinks. So depending on how the audience chooses, they're like, you can do this, or you can choose the story of love and loss or the story of loss and love. And it doesn't seem like that's a major consequence, but in reality, depending on how you chose before, it could trigger an ending that is catastrophic.
Right.
So when the audience chooses...
Had a very heartbreaking ending last week. Still not over it.
Here's the thing about OBP. There's always impending doom.
Hmm.
And I do that purposely for a number of reasons, but the most important one is that when I write a musical, so one of the other musicals I wrote is The Fall in A Tale of Jack the Ripper. And that, so when I'm writing a musical, I truncate it down into one word, and that's about remember. So remember the victims, right? Remember the women of Jack the Ripper, right? We don't answer who Jack the Ripper is. We answer who the women are. And that is a far more compelling story and devastating story because you get to meet all of them and fall in love with them. And
that sounds like it would be up my alley.
Well, I can send you a link if you like. And for Off the Beaten Path, it's the word I chose for OBP is mirror, and that's a mirror of society and mirror of ourselves. And for every choice that we make, there are unintended consequences to those choices, whether they beget bad or whether they be good, right? Your choices matter, and in OBP, they matter more than you think they do. And it can be incredibly powerful. People think they're coming into a fun fantasy show for kids, right? And then we start off fun, we start off entertaining, and we enjoy the jokes. But then by the end of it, people walk out of it being crushed and are weeping.
Oh yeah,
because they're so connected to these characters.
There were some onion ninjas sneaking in this room last Monday, especially after the ending that we got. Oh,
and that's the worst part is that
hurt.
There are even worse or harder endings than that, right? Also, for all of you, because I know you do all things pop culture and nerd culture and comic books. So to the comic book fans, we have post-bow scenes. Every single OBP show or Stories of Our Lyrics, which is the spin-off, there is a post-bow scene, which gives you more information, which entices you to come back and make different choices. So that's something that I think we're very unique in. And it's not unique in the world of entertainment, but it's very unique in the world of theater.
Right.
And there's very little fantasy in the world of theater. But that doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. And we do it, and we do it well. And we've had, 30 performances under our belt. And it's all free. All of our shows are free online. And we can only keep them up for a short period of time because of the Equity, ACTRA, and SAG, Screen Actors Guild rules. They're like, oh, don't keep them up too long. But yeah, we have people with Broadway credits doing our shows, and you get completely sucked into the world. And then D&D is theater of the mind. Well, this is totally theater of the mind, because all you have is a dude in his living room putting on a show, but you get transported to Our Lyris. This place is real. These characters are real, and they're complex. We lean into a lot of tropes. Actually, we pay homage to tropes, but we lean into the truth. Right? Mm-hmm. There's a barbarian that can't count very high. Well, the reason he can't count very high is so complex that, Jay, I promise you, if you watch Stories of Our Lyris 3, Colgar, The Making of a Hero, you will be devastated why he can't count past 6.
Oh my goodness.
Your heart will be ripped out of your chest.
It's already hurting, and I haven't even watched it. Colgar is easily my favorite character so far.
And you get to hear his whole backstory.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right? So you then understand why he can't count past 6. And I promise you that the number 6 will change. Like hearing 6 will make your eyes water
every time
just
now.
Thinking about it. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's beautiful and it's devastating, but it's not just a dumb barbarian.
Right.
There are reasons for it. right? And these characters are so utterly complex that you can go away going, he was a dumb barbarian, I loved him and I felt for him, or you can go, why, and explore that, and then fall in love with this beautiful character even more.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. So now I'm trying to recover here. Give me a second. I'm sorry.
I mean,
Okay.
I really like too. Like, I like that. Like, I like how you kind of help to build like why. Like, because a lot of people, like you said, like, and even like when we do Dice Heart, it feels like, you know, yes, there are like certain quirks, certain things about characters that, you know, people see, but they don't know the whys. And like you said, it's up to them now to make the choice. Like, okay, cool, whatever, or like why.
Yeah, the why is so as an actor, right?
Mhm.
I had a long career as an actor, and motivation was always something that I was fascinated by. Why does a character do this? Why in movies
Right.
do we why are we confused as to why the character goes down in the basement in the middle of a horror movie? Right?
I
We
literally
have to.
just saw the new Scream, and that's like a whole scene of them going, I'm not going in the basement. Are you dumb? Were you not
Well,
paying
yeah.
attention earlier?
But we have to. So acting at its core is reacting. Good
Mhm.
acting is reacting in a way that's congruent with everything the character knows up until that point. Great acting is reacting in a way that's congruent with everything the character knows up until that point and making interesting choices. So we have to believe that that character has to believe that they go down into that basement. And so I write the motivations for all of these characters, and the backstories of these characters give you all of that why, and the world becomes richer. And then something as simple as one word in Off the Beaten Path will devastate you or elate you, right? Because you now know the why Culgar can't count past 6, right? The companions actually never knew that Culgar couldn't count past 6. Why? The same reason we don't actually realize that friends we have in the world are illiterate. Right? That's what I mean by holding up a mirror. There are people that you and I know that can't read. And when we discover the reasons for that, often they're devastating. Right?
Mhm.
They're broken families, broken homes, addiction. There's so many reasons. And then we get to understand our friends more. We get to understand their character more. Well, that we do that in Off the Beaten Path, right? There are understanding the motivations for why people do things. This is really deep and profound as a writer, but it's so important that you then understand why they go down into that basement, why Culgar can't count past 6. And then when he says at one point to another character, teach me, you understand that that's a breakthrough for him, that you knowing his backstory that you never thought would have been possible. So yeah, I promise, Jay, I'll send you that backstory.
Please do. So I guess now that I'm thinking about it, now that I've recovered my own, mental capacities, how I meant to ask this: how many spin-offs are there to Off the Beaten Path? Because we have the sequels,
right.
The trilogy.
Yeah.
All the other songs for lyrics. How many of those are there?
So there's Off the Beaten Path,
right?
The Greater Companions trilogy, which encompasses Off the Beaten Path, The Path Less Traveled, and Path's End.
Right.
Okay. From there are Stories of Our Lyris.
Mm-hmm.
And Stories of Our Lyris are the backstories of the world, the character, gives you context.
Right.
There are moments of Our Lyris, or minis of Our Lyris. There are only 10 to 20 minute episodes that we've just started writing, that are entry points into the world. Right. If you're like, I don't have time to sit down and watch Off the Beaten Path or Stories of Our Lyris that is like 2 hours long. Here's a little taste of it. And so there's an entry point. So there's Stories of Our Lyris, Off the Beaten Path, Moments of Our Lyris, and a new one called The Chronicles of Dar. Now, Dar was a throwaway character in Stories of Our Lyris 2.5. When we did Stories of Our Lyris 2, Annex and the Piper, which I referenced earlier, one of the characters in there, the audience went crazy for. His name was Farnham. He was the innkeep. And it's that NPC that everyone goes, he's the best. I love that NPC.
We've had that, what's the right word, Britt? Problem in our group. We've adopted so many characters at times.
I wouldn't say problem. I would say
I would call it a problem. We're in recovery at this point.
No, we're not. We're not in recovery.
And that's what's so great about D&D is that these NPCs actually mean something to you. These non-player characters that just show up and they become part of the story and they become an integral part of the story. Well, we did that for 2.5. We were like, we're going to tell his backstory. And in that, the audience met a character named Dar. And Dar is only good at three things, or is very good at three things. 1, thievery. 2, swordsmanship. And 3, staying alive. And so that character became big. And then Dar, we started to weave Dar throughout the world. And his part became bigger and bigger and bigger until finally I have woven him through the through line of the Path Less Travel or the Greater Companions trilogy, SOA, MOA. All of his stories are intertwined, and so while they don't deal with specifically the characters of Off the Beaten Path, it sets up everything in the Greater Companions trilogy. His story does. As a matter of fact, Kydius's fighting style is based on Dar. Kydius doesn't even know it. Yeah. And we do there's also something called Roodles that I do, which is writer's doodles.
Okay.
And so characters that you think will never meet in the Roodles, and these Roodles are canon, but the characters that you think will never meet, like Dar and Kydius, actually meet.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Right? And so what would that look like? It's that question, who would win, a tiger or a lion?
Right.
Ooh.
Right? These Roodles answer those questions. Or these Roodles are the sinew and the muscle between the skeleton of the stories. So we have, that's right. We have Roodles, we have Stories of Our Lyris, we have Moments of Our Lyris, we have Chronicles of Dar, we have the Greater Companions trilogy. It's a universe. It really is.
It sounds like it. You've got your own
move over MCU.
Your own SCU, if you will.
Yes.
There we go.
And another homage to Off the Beaten Path, or fantasy, is we don't call Off the Beaten Path Act 1 and Act 2. We call it Session 1, Session 2, because the Path Less Traveled is Session 3, Session 4.
Wonderful.
Path Sand is Session 5, Session 6. So we are setting up what happens in Session 6 in Session 1 of Off the Beaten Path, right?
Okay.
So it's all mapped out throughout.
My goodness.
It's insane.
I can imagine. Okay, so as a writer myself, how do you get through those just awful days, weeks, months, at my point, years of writer's block, where you've got this idea, you want to give it life, you want to build it more, but you're just sitting at your computer going,
Yeah, I actually don't. I very rarely have that problem because I am so excited about the stories that I am telling. And what I do is when I do get those, inevitably I'll get those from time to time, but they're so short-lived that I don't even worry about them. And remember what I said about truncating it down into one word. The story I'm telling is about mirroring, or is about remember. if I'm stuck, what am I trying to say? And I go, you know what? I'm mirroring society. What is society doing right now? Well, society is in a bit of a pandemic, and we have things, conspiracy theories or truths, depending on what side of the aisle you're on. QAnon, right? So QAnon would be an amazing character in a story, right? How do we write QAnon into our story without calling it a non-Q? Or you know what I mean?
Right.
There's so many inspirations around us. And when talking about the Jack the Ripper show, remember. So I'm trying to remember these women. So I read up on the women and go, oh, she was really cool, or that's a really interesting aspect of Mary Kelly,
Of her life.
right? Exactly. And you get excited about telling that part of the story. So when you're going, I don't know what to write, always refer back to that one word. And then
that kind of helps to
it really does. So today, I'm writing Chronicles of Dar, the first in the episode. And it's on February 13th. And it's called Chronicles of Dar only ever has one subtitle. And this one's called Love. And it's the whole reason Dar has become Dar. And he fell in love with this woman. And when writing, I was like, I have a bad guy. I have an idea. I think it'll be great. But I just have a bad guy. I don't have a motivation. And so today, randomly, I watch YouTube a lot. All of a sudden, the story of King Herod comes on. And I love history. And I was like, holy crap, I didn't know this about King Herod. Holy crap, I didn't know this about King Herod. And I became invested, and I was like, oh my goodness, King Herod is just like Voce, this character that I'm writing in Chronicles of Dar. And I'm like, let me at it. I'm just going to type away, because now I know who Voce is.
Right.
Right. And in reality, Voce means voice. And it's that voice inside your head that you're always combating. Right. It's that. So Voce speaks all of the insecurities that Dar has. He speaks them aloud to Dar, right? And so that character just came to life for me today. And so I'm going to be writing like a fiend. And just so you're aware, all of the scripts I write, one draft, audience sees them.
Wow.
Yeah, with the exception of Off the Beaten Path.
Right.
But yeah, all the stories of our Lyris, Chronicles of Dar, Moments of Our Lyris, the Roodles, one draft and out.
Wow.
Wowie. That's pretty amazing.
But here's the thing. I live in my world 24/7 because I have a team that allows to do that. And so I'm always in my head, and I'm constantly writing. And so what I'm doing when I'm writing is I'm just listening in on a conversation, writing that conversation down, because I'm watching it. It's so real to me that I am in the midst of it, and I can describe the room that they're in. I can describe the mood of each of the characters, and because I've studied acting, and acting is reacting, how they're reacting not only to themselves, but to the environment, to what's just happened, to what's going to happen. So when I sit down and write, I'm kind of cheating because I'm just listening and watching a story, and I'm writing it out. Right?
Right. No, I don't want to use the word system. I can relate to that. That's the right word I'm looking for here, because I came up with a scene for a short story I'm writing solely based off of me and a friend of mine going to breakfast. We went to this little local restaurant, and we had to step down into like a glass patio area. And I thought to myself, what if my hero had to walk into this room all by himself? No one in this building except for the person he's meeting. How intimidating is that going to be? What's going through his mind? Why is he being summoned there? And I basically have a whole chapter ready just off of that one little experience.
And I love that. I think that's wonderful. And the question you have to ask yourself is, every story has already been told.
Mhm.
Every story has been told one way or another, because the movie Avatar is really the movie Pocahontas, right? And we've already seen these stories play out, right? So
Right.
why is your story different? Has this story already been told? If so, why does yours need to be told?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it important? And so if you attack it in a way where you answer that question,
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you that you're already ahead of the game. Jack the Ripper has been told a million different ways. We
Right.
decided from the beginning we weren't going to answer who Jack the Ripper was. That is a different way to attack the story. And so with Off the Beaten Path, the same thing. Has this story already been told? Millions of times around tabletop role playing with a dungeon master or a GM, right?
Right.
Why is our story important? Well, our story is important because it's their story. I am writing this for you, Britt. I'm writing it for you, Jay. And so you get to see your characters, your worlds, your fantasy franchises come to life before your eyes, and you get to go on that journey and see it and understand it deeper than anyone else has. Because we talk about saving throws, we talk about giving advantage, and it just becomes everyday conversation and lingo that you understand and that people may not completely understand, but they understand. Oh, I understand that he's giving her an advantage as
Right.
opposed to giving advantage, right? Those are two different things, but they mean something similar enough that the audience is still on the same page.
And
Right.
is able to understand
So
what it means.
that's our approach.
A little bit
Gotcha.
of bardic inspiration here and there.
Yeah.
Also, I have to say, the roll of the dice song, wonderful.
Yeah. Well,
because I use that as on a constant basis of, is something going to work? Well, I'm going to roll the dice. Or sometimes I refuse to roll the dice because I know
Yep.
it's going to go bad. Be like, I refuse to roll those dice.
Or just do what I do. What the
If
hell
you do a
what's the worst thing that
screen
can happen?
If you allow me to do a screen share, I can actually play roll of the dice for you.
Oh, sure. Go for it.
If you want, for your listeners, or you can play it after. Or yeah, let me just find it first. Because you know what?
I know that feeling.
The internet at my place has decided to be a pain. So give me just a second. I can pull it up here. So in this one, it's a roll of the dice, which everyone that plays D&D can relate to. It's a roll of the dice. It's a flip of the coin, right? And David Silvestri, who actually played Kydius for you, Colgar for you rather, is playing Kydius in this one, singing roll of the dice. Yeah, so this is David Silvestri from the cast of Les Mis and Come From Away. He played Jean Valjean in Les Mis, and now in this he plays Kydius Westwind, singing It's a Roll of the Dice.
Don't you know who I am? I'm the man with the plan. I am where we all began. Now look into my eyes. Tell me, what do you see? The drive to fulfill our destiny. And my name will reign from the circles of hell to the astral plane, to the sunless citadel. We've made it this far, and it's all thanks to me. But I never said we would make it scot-free, 'cause it's always been a roll of the dice. It's a flip of the coin. It's a matter of skill. Every battle that's joined, she'll be lost without me. it has been foretold. I'm the one that you need, like the heroes of old. We are close to the goal. It can be obtained, but you're all running scared at the slightest strain. But my name will be known, this I give you my oath. From the gleeman's tales to the stories of both, we've made it this far, and it's all thanks to me. But I never said we would make it scot-free, 'cause it's always been, it's a roll of the dice, it's a flip of the coin, it's a matter of luck, every battle that's joined. Around every corner is a death-saving throw, but you keep going with your team in tow. Doesn't matter the danger, doesn't matter the foe. The path less traveled is the way I go. Because I know it's a roll of the dice, it's a flip of the coin, it's a left to the goal.
That is It's Roll of the Dice, starring David Silvestri as Coyotes Westwind at the end of session 1 of Off the Beaten Path. So, yeah, I can send you a link to that one as well.
Yes.
Please do.
Wow.
Yeah, that was one of the first songs I wrote. The idea that, making it, thank you. I'm so glad you like it, Britt. This makes my
very
heart
much.
the idea that the world is very much D&D based. I really wanted to make sure that It's a Roll of the Dice was in there, right? And so it's referenced throughout the show, and depending on the ending, which can be dramatic as well, depending on which ending you get, there's references to rolling the dice, and it's there throughout. And I don't know if you noticed in that there's like references to the King Killer Chronicles, Stories of Quoth. There's references to the Sunless Citadel, which is D&D property. And should we, if anyone comes after us for using those, we already have alternative lyrics and stuff.
Yep.
So I don't have to worry about it. My wife is a lawyer, so we'll be fine.
Well done.
But yeah, there's.
Well played, good sir.
Yeah. Well, thank you very kindly. But yeah, so that's the essence of the show. Is I'm really wanting you to go on an adventure, and I want you to have heroes that you can hold on to, heroes that you love, heroes that you hate, heroes that you come to love, heroes that you come to hate once you know more about them. And so, yeah, that's what OBP is. It really is just a mirror of society where you get to go on the journey as well.
Well, I'm sold.
Yeah, absolutely. I am definitely looking forward to seing more of these adventures and seeing.
I know.
which
I can't
paths
wait.
go down.
I can't wait now.
So,
Britt, I will send you I'll put it in the chat. One of the previous recordings of
That
Beaten Path, so you can get an idea.
is fantastic.
I think it's a different ending than what J saw.
That's okay.
I'll do that. I'll put it in the chat.
that
Oh, and I think
both
someone
makes
else
me
wants to
very
listen
happy and very worried, because I don't know which ending she's getting. I know what ending I got, and I'm still so on the fence about it. It hurts.
You're still recovering from it.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So I do have to ask, because of
Well,
part
it's
of
in the chat now. Go
Wonderful.
ahead. You can watch it at your
as
leisure.
part of the
Yeah.
pop culture menagerie you see behind us. You guys are also starting to do convention appearances. What conventions can we expect
That's
to
right,
see
yeah.
Off the Beaten Path at in the near future?
So, Yes, in February next month, we will be in Vancouver at the Comic Expo there. We will be in at MegaCon in Orlando. We will be in that. We're both promoting Off the Beaten Path and our musical commissions. So that we've, over the past year, we've done over 6 hours of original music for our clients, and they have everything. If you don't mind, because I know I'm still sharing,
Go for it.
I can give you quick samples of what our commissions are, because they're so different than Off the Beaten Path. They do everything from let me see here.
Oh, not to spoil the surprise, I was 100% intending on messaging you for a Dice Hard theme. I just hadn't done it yet. But I fully intended on contacting you for a new theme for our show.
Well, that's fantastic. We would absolutely love to do a theme for you. This one is one of my favorites. It gives that real epic feel of the world. Then we need to get epic.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's a sample of what we do. And then, what's that? You want anime? Okay.
I feel like I need to go smoke a cigarette now.
Oh yes, I already love this so much.
Starlight, starbright. Oh my God. First star I see tonight. Shooting stars fly. Wow. Not just any kids. Gotta save the world when class is done. 'Cause we might be cute or pretty, but only we can push back this dark invasion.
What's that? You want a sea shanty?
Always.
Oh, I gotta hear this.
The Defiance sails the open sea with Sebastian at the helm. But before there was a man, you see, 'twas the worst in the realm. Now hear the tale of a man set sail without his ship and drowned. His ego bigger than a whale, the demise of the nomad sound. Sterling Defiance, she sails the salted seas. Sterling Defiance, she'll bring you to your knees. Sterling Defiance.
And the one I will leave you with is, this one is Heroes of the North. This is our flagship song. And I guarantee you will fall in love with this piece.
There's an oath that's sworn to protect your land, from farms and fields to turrets and manned, and to the last of us you'll make a stand, for we are
This is a party piece. So it's for their full party,
here we are
called the Heroes of the
made
North.
of modern stone, and we bleed the North to our blood and bone, and we'll fight for you if our colors flow up here in the North. But there's a crew that we look to when the fog of war is at our door, and we'll cry their names forevermore. Heroes of the North, gods of mid our land know their name, turn dark, we turn to the light. List our heroes to lead the fight. They are the heroes of the North. With them we'll sally forth. The warrior knight, the maiden of air, the archer too, yet need not despair. For they are the heroes of the North.
So yeah, that's just a sample of some of the work that we do. We have 4 composers on staff. We have, I believe we've got close to 10 singers, for everything from opera singers to pop singers and everything in between. We've got 3 lyricists. So if you don't have lyrics, and we can do any genre and any style. I mean, for goodness sake, we just did a
fantasy
piece that's
anime
from the
to
1920s.
Wow.
Yes.
It's like this piece here. 1920s.
I
Sun-soaked streets,
I can definitely.
Chicago's gate. Look left, turn back into the shadows and escape. 'Cause Helga and her...
Right? So we do any style and any genre. And I agree. I agree with the dog. Very excited dog. But yeah, from everything from one instrument to 250-piece orchestras, as you heard. So
Wow.
So wild.
that's what we do.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Wow. You have quite the small universe on your hands.
Yes.
We've been so blessed. We have an amazing team. My social media manager, Sarah Bostock in England, to my assistant, Melody McClellan, who's going throughout North America as we speak. All over the world, we've got fans as far field from us as Australia, lots in Europe, South Africa. We've got fans there all throughout South America. We have fans all over the world, and fans for just our commissions, and fans for just off the beaten path, and fans for stories of our lyrics, right? So we've got little mini fandoms
Built up.
and we try to cater to all of and it's been wonderful. And really, it's only been a year since we started the commissions, and our Discord is the kindest place on the internet. And filled with love and compassion and caring and all that wonderful stuff. So we've got a world going on, and it's just getting bigger by the day. And it's thanks to people like you, Jay and Britt, who bring us on your podcast to be able to talk about it. And maybe we'll get 1 or 2 more people here, or maybe 5 or 6, or maybe 100. I don't know. But I will gladly sit and talk about OBP, our lyrics, and our commissions for the rest of my days. Even if we get 1 person on board, to me it's worth it, because we think we have stories worth telling, both musically and through our plays and musicals.
Absolutely. Well, wow, thank you again for sitting down with us. Before we hop off, where can the good people of the internet find you guys?
Yes, please.
You can find us at obpmusical.com. And I believe that's the majority of our, so OBP Musical. You can find us on TikTok, you can find us on Twitter, on Instagram, and OBP Musical. If you have any questions from this, go to melody@obpmusical.com. That's my assistant. She will gladly answer any questions that you might have. And if she doesn't know the answers, then she will seek them out, and which usually means coming to me. obpmusical.com and OBP Musical everywhere on social media. There's a link tree there that gives you information to upcoming events. The next one is Chronicles of Dar Love, starring this very handsome guy. And if you're listening to this podcast, I am incredibly handsome. So just imagine like the most handsome person in the world. And that's who you're listening to. So Chronicles of Dar takes place on February 13th It's absolutely free. And then you get to meet Darnassus Nutis. Very nice guy. And he's very good at three things. So I hope to see everyone there.
Well, thank you so much once again for joining us, Tory. We greatly,
Yes.
greatly appreciate your time, your efforts with OBP, and all of your stories. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the Kirbside Podcast. As always, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and tap that little bell on your YouTube app so you never miss an upload. And we'll see you guys again very soon.